Hello， 我是罗世宏，大家好，午安，下午好。虽然是不同的中文表述，不过现在讲下午好，在台湾可能有一部分的人会皱眉哈。正如曹科菲老师最近接受风传媒的一篇很棒的专访，他提到说他来台湾很多次，不过最近这一次他来了，他有感觉到似乎有一些人开始对大陆口音变得有一点点敏感，对，所以这个是我们现在所处的一个氛围哦。Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this very important session. The session title is Speaking Through Brutality When a Gazan, a Palestinian, meets an Israeli. They not only meet and they talk very well. And I think it's remarkable. For this, we should thank the龍應台Foundation to make all this possible. Thank you. I say I'm a brave man to be able to moderate this session. When the龍應台Cultural Foundation first asked me to do this, I said yes, almost immediately, partly because I never turned down a request from Dr. Long. Only later did I realize how little I actually know about the Israel-Palestine question. But that is also why I am so happy to be here today, because I get to listen, to learn, and to share this experience together with all of you. It's truly an honor to have with us two guests whose lives and work come directly from one of the most painful conflict zones in the world. Mr. Roy Silberberg from Israel, director of the School for Peace at Wahat, Shalom, and Dr. Hazem Almassary from Gaza, a writer and postdoctoral researcher whose work reflects on colonial violence, displacement, and resilience. Before we begin, let us acknowledge the reality in Gaza today. Civilians continue to bear immense suffering from war and blockade. Healthcare and food systems are close to collapse, and millions of people live without stable access to water, electricity, and security. Journalists and humanitarian workers, too, have paid a heavy price, with many losing their lives on the front lines. These are not just headlines or statistics. They are human lives and family stories. This conversation today here also carries meaning for Taiwan. We too live under geopolitical tension, where daily life is shadowed by external threats. While we may not fully imagine what it is like to live in Gaza, we can relate to the question of how to live under the weight of conflict and uncertainty. The fact that voices from different sides of a conflict can meet and talk here in Taiwan is itself a reminder. Even amid division and insecurity, we can still choose dialogue, understanding, and the pursuit of peace. Later on, I will not make further comments to the source what they share, to save time to open the floor later. Okay? Okay, so let's begin on personal note. My question one, could each of you share how you came onto this path of peace work, all for Hazem, as he insisted the other day when we met, political work, political action. Was there a turning point in your life when you decided to face the conflict through education, writing, or activism? Perhaps we start with Roy and then invite Hazem to share his journey.
Thank you for the question. I grew up in like a normal Israeli childhood in a house which is relatively Zionist, in an area which is very militarized. In Israeli culture, many things are connected to the army. And I've never met a Palestinian and talked to a Palestinian until university. And actually the changing point for me was that I participated in a dialogue activity in university. It was a dialogue activity done by the School for Peace. I was studying a master's degree in biochemistry and cancer research, and it's a long story how I got to take this course, but I came for the first class, and I see there is no place for me. The people organizing it tell me, you cannot take this course. There are too many Jewish students, and because you come from the biochemistry department, then there is no place for you. I told them I must take this course. So they said, okay, if you come with find a Palestinian friend to come with you, it's okay, we'll keep the balance in the activity between Jews and Palestinians. So I came back to the biology building and started going between the floors of the laboratories, and I found a Palestinian PhD student, and she immediately agreed, and we became good friends. And later she won a MasterChef reality show, and is doing very excellent Palestinian cooking. But this course changed my life. I understood a special responsibility I have as a Jewish Israeli in this context. Responsibility towards the other, towards the Palestinians, and towards my society and my community. And after that course, I joined the School for Peace. I did a facilitator's course, and we are now almost 20 years after that. And I'm the director of the School for Peace, and I moved to Neve Shalom, Wahat Salam, which is the community of the School for Peace. It's a shared village where Jews and Palestinians live together, and my daughters go to bilingual kindergarten and school, and I hope it will continue.
Thank you, Dr. Law, for this introduction and for this question about how I get into the education of politics. I don't want to say peace, because we are the people who is occupied. I don't know what kind of peace we can do. We cannot do action in peace except surrender the people who are occupied. So I wanted to choose the correct description when we talk about our activism. For me, I started interested in politics in general when I was a child. People always, maybe the news or politics influence their lives. They see the news and it influences their lives. But actually, when we were children, we used to see the news in the ground, and then the news will be aired. So we see the news first before it being aired. So it influenced our lives in general. And then when I used to watch the news, not only about Palestine, not only about Gaza, even news from far countries, as I mentioned today in my speech. But I was interested more in education and learning when I was about 17 or 18 years old. I thought, those people, the Israelis, maybe they are right. Maybe they are right side, and we are wrong. I thought it's possible, why not? I started to think as they think. Maybe I failed to reach that level, but I tried. I said, why they think they are right? Why they are doing like this? Why they are attacking us? After thinking about the way, when I saw the brutality on the ground, actually the rightful people don't need to do all of this brutality. They don't need to kill that amount of children. They don't need to use this much violence. They don't need to show themselves as monsters to us. They don't need all of this impurity. They don't need all of this running or strongly rejection of any international investigation or intervention. They don't need all of this rejection to international law or of this violation to international law. They don't need, if they are right, they will not be afraid all of the international law and the charters. So I started to learn about the mentality and the discourse, the Zionist discourse that produces this brutality. And I found it is like a matrix, very developed and very skillfully built matrix. Matrix of what? Matrix of fallacies and distortion of not only reality. They distort the reality, they distort history, they distort logic, they distort reasoning, they distort even the common sense. I started to read because I started to take some claims they always use to talk about themselves and how they see Palestinian. First, they don't consider there is something called Palestinian people. Some of them, they consider there is nothing called Palestinian people. This is, actually, it is, maybe Roy can't say that or understand this kind of discourse. They deny that, the existence of Palestinian people. They rely in history, for example. I discussed it with Roy yesterday, and he was a little upset, but I said, it is not my conviction, but I studied it just to understand the mechanism of their thinking. For example, they think they are the ancestral, this land is their ancestral land. They have the historical right of this land. But I started to study this point. I studied history in my undergraduate, history and political science, and found more information about this topic. Are they, even it is not true, and I agree with Roy that it is not about history. This issue should not be historical issue. But since those people do use this point, I studied it. I found that most Israeli people think they are descendants of the ancient Jews, and actually it is, sorry to say that, it is not true. All of these Jews you see now nowadays, the demographic map of the Jews nowadays were not shaped by the ancestor people or by the descendants of the ancient people. It was shaped by mass conversion to Judaism. And we have trackable records from history about this mass conversion in many countries, in many regions, in Europe. And we can include also to ask genealogy, the genes, how they see, what its opinion about that. You will find that they are not related to the ancient Jews. nowadays Jews now, they don't belong to the ancient Jews. But it is not questionable among the Israeli society who use this myth of historical right. They don't question it at all. I don't want to go deep in this topic, and I am ready. If anyone wants to discuss it, I am ready to discuss it. Okay? Another myth or another fallacy they use, oh, look at Arabs and Muslims. They want to destroy the only Jewish state. Actually, the first myth, Muslim and Arabs don't fight. Okay, only Palestinian, and not all Palestinian, just a small part of Palestinians. This is the first mistake or the first fallacy they use. And it pretends that every religion, when they say the only religious or the only Jewish state in the world, it pretends that every religion should have a state. It pretends that all religions have a state. It pretends that Islam has states. Maybe some of you say, what are you saying? Muslims have states. This here, the confusion they make. The confusion about the religious state. For example, you can say, oh, Saudi Arabia is an Islamic state, is a Muslim state. Okay, now I am a Muslim, and I am stateless. Can I be Saudi Arabian? Can I be Iranian? Because Iranian is a Muslim state. No, they are nation states. They just deliberately confuse between nation state and religious state. The only religious state in the world is Israel. The only, for example, if any Christian or any Catholic can be, for example, Venezuelan, because Venezuela is a Catholic state. No. All of these countries are nation states. Saudi Arabia only for Saudis, but they Islamized it. Venezuela, the same thing. It is not for a Christian only, but they give it the identity with the Christianity. But all of these are nation states. They were not built based on religious identity. So another point, I want just to finish this point, and here you will find that Israel, actually we have, in the last 100 years, we have two models of this kind of religious state. The first model is the state of Israel. The second model is Islamic State, ISIS. The core notion of these states is based on religion. And we have similarities. The similarities, both of them associated with violence and committing massacres against the other. But the difference here, we have Israel, they use sophisticated, they are cool, more cool than ISIS. Their girls or ladies wear bikinis, and they have smart technology. They are cool, but ISIS not. And the other difference that ISIS was destroyed by the hands of Muslims, but Israel is supported by the West.
Okay, thank you. Is it complicated?
I think he's
Enough?
sorry for that, but it is about education. I went a little far, but it is very important to understand. The question was about my education, how I get involved in this education. I want to understand the mechanism of how this discourse was produced.
The discourse, yeah. I feel sympathetic, and we can have a more discussion later on, and looking forward to your feedback later. So now let's turn to the reality of your work in your everyday peace building and political efforts. What are the hardest challenges you face? Is it political pressure from the outside, misunderstanding from people around you, such as you face in Taiwan now, Hazem? or within your own community, such, for example, Roy in Israel, or the inner struggle of fatigue and despair, and how do you find the strength to keep going? For this one, let's begin with Hazem, and then turn to Roy for his response.
Here in Taiwan, as I said, this discourse was produced not only by Israel. There is a colonial system produced. They have interest to promote that discourse. There is a network power to promote it and make Israel not like other countries. Not like they don't. Israel for its supporters is not a country. It's a project that everyone can and must support. So, for example, they don't look at Israel like Singapore, for example, okay, or Malaysia, or any countries. No, it's a project that should everyone support and adopt that project. So, if you think this discourse or propaganda only influence the Western countries, unfortunately, this influence also some Taiwanese. And I faced it personally. When October the 7th happened, and Israel started the genocide, some media invited me for interviews, and I came. I spoke about it, and I emphasized on our right to resist. So some Taiwanese actually they were angry of me. How to speak like this? They demanded to dismiss me from my work and to deport me. Even after knowing that I lost my mother and I lost my home, They don't have a problem with that. Their message actually was clear to me. Private grief is acceptable about my mom and about my home, but to explain it or to put it in the context of Israel and doing or causing any kind of harm to Israel, here it is, I crossed the line for them. So the network power influence many people, even the distant, even the far people, like Taiwan, even Japan, even the very far. They don't have any interest to support Israel, or they don't have any threat from the Palestinian resistance. They don't have this kind, but they were influenced by this kind of propaganda or discourse.
You asked a very long question. I will start with the challenges. Basically, maybe these days, the main challenge for dialogue is holding a safe space that can support dialogue. And in this safe space, the goal is to feel that you can speak your mind and that you can have some kind of control over the discussion and be equal in this space. And for that, it takes some time to create the trust, not even in one another, but the trust in the place, the trust in the organizers, in order for a dialogue to happen. Maybe another challenge is facing from our communities and from our societies. In these days, in times of war and everything that is happening that Hazem also mentioned, it is not so common and not accepted by all to come and talk to the other. So people who come they face challenges from their communities, and it's talked about. It's a part of the discussion. Why did we come? And I discovered that in these days, there are less and less people who want to have a dialogue. But those people who do want to have a dialogue, they feel that it's much more urgent, that it is critical, that it is maybe the most important thing that they can do right now. So they commit, they manage to get over those challenges, and they come. So maybe paradoxically, we find it easier to find participants for dialogue activities in this time. And they actively find us for that.
Thank you. I admire you for doing so much peace work to facilitate a safe space for people with different background to talk to each other. At this point, I'd like to invite you to ask each other a question. If you could ask one direct question, what would it be? Maybe it's something you've always wondered, or something you'd like to better understand from the other's perspective. Let's start with Roy asking Hazem, and then give Hazem the chance to ask his question in return. Do I catch you by surprise?
No, I knew you were going to ask that, and I have some question in mind. But after hearing Hazem here, I thought maybe without connection to Israeli propaganda or Israeli political claims, what do you feel shows? What do you feel like Palestinians want to say to the world about their right or their justice and their political wish? I'm sorry, I was not prepared. Just
not about to prepare, but I think it's a very simple question to answer. People under occupation and their rights are being violated on daily basis by the Israeli army or by the Israeli even society. Okay? Not only army, the Israeli society, because they produce it. So the main wish is to stop that the system, the occupying and apartheid system. The first thing we want from the world is to stop backing that system. The first thing we want. And then to support, not to claim. We don't want something, don't hear from us. We want just to apply what are stated in the international resolutions by the UN, or to hear, not our witness, to hear the international organizations' witness reports, what they say about the realities under the Israeli occupation, and then to apply it. So if we apply just the international resolutions and listen to the international human rights organizations, we can, and we apply them, we can get justice, and we can get freedom, and we can get also our rights. Actually, I don't have a specific question to Roy. I don't have a specific question to Roy. I know Roy is, for me, it's easy for me. Yes, easy the situation that the most difficult situation is for Roy, not for me. Okay, you know that. Okay, I told you I tried to understand the mechanism of our oppressors and to think maybe they are right. But then I found we are not the right side. At least the other side, they are wrong of what they are doing. So it was easy for me to know the right thing. But for Roy, who was born under the system and the media and the schooling system processed, they work hard to process their brain, to wash their brains, not only Roy. So you need first to think out of the mainstream. He did that. And then after that, you dare to speak up. He did that. Okay? And then you need to continue. He did that. So he got my respect. Okay? Roy got my respect. I am not sure if I am in his place, I will pass that test.
I personally admire Roy very much. And would you like to have something to add? To respond to Hazem?
With me?
No, I mean, okay. Finally, let's look ahead. Do you still believe peace is possible? And if so, what do you see as its foundation? Is it education, political action, historical justice, or perhaps solidarity across borders? For this last question, let's begin with Hazem and then invite Roy to share his view. Hazem.
Yes, dealing with people as a humans is the most important thing. Okay, I just mentioned some fallacies in the beginning, how they think. Do you think if they know they are wrong, or if we give them the true knowledge, they will accept it and say, oh, we are wrong? No, will not do that. They will not do that, because the problem is not the lack of knowledge. The problem is surplus of power and impunity and lack of humanity. We need the education that enhance humanity. This is the main point. Humanity, that, and then we can spread peace.
I feel what you called solidarity across borders is key. Also, like Hazem said, knowing that you are wrong is not enough. You need to feel it. And the best way to feel it is by being in contact with the other. And solidarity across border is important. It makes us stronger. Even if I'm weak in my society or my community, the fact that I have partners on the other side and that they could imagine some kind of future together, it makes me stronger. And without that, I don't think there would be any peace attempts in Israel. So international support is important, and the Palestinian legitimacy is also important. And I would like to stand for Palestinian rights and to support every way I can. And I feel it is my responsibility. I feel you said that you are brave to come and moderate. I feel something else. I feel you are very responsible and that you are doing the right thing for doing that. And that everyone knows themselves the best. And everyone knows what they can do. what is their responsibility. And responsibility is not something that I give you. Responsibility is something you must take. And everyone must take. And I feel this is the key to move forward.
Yeah, thank you for what you just said. I think we should get together to win peace everywhere around the world. And hopefully we can still, hopefully it's still not too late. Not only for Israel, Palestine, but also for Taiwan. Okay, because the time is running out, so now we'd like to open the floor for questions from the audience. Please keep your questions brief so that more people have the chance to participate. When you ask a question, please kindly introduce yourself very briefly and then go straight to the question. We might be able to take 2 rounds of questions, 3 each in turn, okay? On my left-hand side, the gentleman, and 右边有2位，前面这一位先生跟对不起中间我让中间的先提问好，等一下我们希望有第2轮的这个提问机会，所以左边的先生、右边的前面这位先生，还有中间这位女士，好吗？请提问。
After having heard, Roy and Hazem interact with each other, I really have very high admirations for both of them, for being able to speak in a heart-to-heart way. And but what I actually am seeing in this dialogue is a mirror image of the situation of actually Taiwan, because what this dialogue revealed is, it doesn't have to wait till them to reveal the situation, because it is a settler colonial situation there, which is also found in the US, in Canada, in Australia, and New Zealand, and surprised in Taiwan too, because Taiwan was originally a land which belonged to the indigenous people, Malay-Austronesians, who are related to the Filipinos, Malays, and Indonesians. And the ethnic Chinese took over Taiwan, and now we are 96%, 94% probably. And so when we are talking about cross-straits peace, the indigenous people, at least their will, has never been rarely included in such a conversation. Today, for instance, the indigenous people in Taiwan have been mentioned, but they're mainly mentioned as the marginalized, the people who are caught in poverty, etc. As if they were. I don't think the speakers actually mean that, but it sounds like they're just passive victims of the situation where they just can't catch up with the Chinese culture, etc. So, in other words, when we talk about cross-straits peace, we need to bring the indigenous people's perspective into focus. At least they needed to be one of the major, party for dialogue. Otherwise, it's just some kind of a power struggle between ethnic Chinese, internecine kind of struggle between ethnic Chinese. So it's more like a power. I'm not talking about the struggle for peace, but basically the struggle between these two sides of the strait is a kind of a internecine power struggle, within the ethnic Chinese communities. So what I'm saying is that we need to, again, bring the indigenous people's perspective into focus in order to actually have a truly, a fruitful discussion about peace across the strait. That's my basic point. I just thought that it had been, for a long time it's been tremendously ignored. So this is Taiwan is a colonial settler colonial state. Yes, we need to overcome that first, or at the same time.
OK， 谢谢廖老师的分享。那就是能够容纳更多不同人的这个观点到这个有关和平的讨论哈。那我们现在接着请这个右边这位先生提问。
I just came from Nangang Exhibition Hall where there's a defense show. Then there's more guns, and then drones, and then Gaza. So I personally go through a radicalized experience in Taiwan. I was grown up with Taiwanese kid in the countryside, but as I graduate, my roommate and I now divided. I was labeled a Chinese spy, and then deleted from their communication list. So there's a profit in war. There's a profit in divide. And there's a politician who was profit from radicalize the people and divide people through media. And this military-industrial complex was manipulating our society. Even there's a full star and stripe in Nangang Exhibition Hall that forces us 5% GDP has to be in the defense budget. So how can we have a profit in peace instead of being manipulated by profit in war?
谢谢。刚刚从南港回来哈，那个有一个军武的这个大展，我们如何能够从这个和平当中去获利，而不是从战争哈？其实这个和平的时候，我们每个人已经获利了。等一下我们请两位语坛人回应。最后请中间这一位女士提问，然后问题可以简短，谢谢。
谢谢。Thank you, Professor Luo, and thank you, Hazem and Roy. So first question is for Hazem. So I think most mainstream media around the world have been talking about what happened on October 7, 2023. Same in Taiwan. But however, I feel like, unfortunately, most of our coverage or what people could know falls short a little bit. So I would like to ask you, what is the important background? What is the context that people should put what took place on October 7th in? And the second question is for Roy. What are some important steps that you think should happen in order for the state of Israel to end their occupation? And third question for both speakers. So not long ago, the Taiwan Foreign Ministry shared that they recently did a donation pledge that they hope to support a medical facility in one of the Israeli settlements. And the first question is for Hazem. What do you hope the people of Taiwan to know of this? And for Roy, for people who don't really know what's the true reality of these illegal Israeli settlements, what do you hope the people could know? Thank you so much.
谢谢，都是非常重要的问题哈。那我们现在请两位panelist 来回答这个问题。先 Hazem， 然后再 Roy， 好吗？好 ，You go first.
In the beginning, before we talk about October the 7th, you know that the background, I think some people insist they don't have a problem with knowledge. They have a problem with their insistence, with their ideology that rejected anything about facts in Palestine. We have occupation. In their world, those people who think the problem started on October the 7th, in their world there is nothing called occupation. And thus, there is no need to resist. In their world, there is nothing called siege or blockade. In their world, in their mind, there is nothing like this. There is no oppression. There are no checkpoints. There are no settlements that is biting our lands. So they ignore all of these facts on the ground, and they consider the story started only on the October the 7th. Actually, we have very long history of injustices in Palestine since 47, when those Zionists armed themselves well and they started to attack Palestinians in their villages. Some say, okay, you rejected the partition solution. Partition solution was designed to make the Palestinian reject it when you give the majority of the land to the minority, and minority, most of them, new arrival. Whatever, but the problem also not in their knowledge, the problem in their ideology. It is in their bias when they ignore all of these. For example, in Gaza, we have in 2008, Israel called it military operation. Military operation, it is the same scale or larger than October the 7th attack. Israel killed 1,200 Palestinians and destroyed many buildings. In 2012, the same thing. In 2014, Israel also had a military operation in Gaza, killed about 1,400 Palestinians. All of these wars are much larger than the Palestinian attacks on the October the 7th. But all of these are not counted because those people, they have high tolerance toward the Palestinian blood. So I think it's about bias more than knowledge. And for the question about donation to the settlements in the West Bank, I think it's an internal issue in Taiwan, not in Palestine. You know that even they donate. I don't know when the world now, when you live in, you try to prove the world. You have right to be a legal country, to be legitimate country. I don't know why they decide to support illegitimate entities. I don't know. It makes them in the same category. They put themselves with the same category. This is a big problem here. For Palestinians, the settlements project is going on with Taiwan donation or without Taiwan donation. It's going on. Okay? By power, by force. Okay? They violate international law. They don't care about it. But when you put yourself in a place that violate the international law to support illegitimate entities, I think it will be internal issue, not external issue.
Thank you. And also for questions for Roy to answer about Taiwan has been entangled in the network of the military industrial complex in supplying lethal weapons to Israel. And also the lady in the middle asking about the Taiwanese government proposed a donation to Israel to build medical facilities in the West Bank, right? How do you respond to that?
About the industrial military complex, everybody gained from peace. Many people gain from peace. But the problem is that few people gain from war, but they gain a lot. And they have an interest to keep it going. And the question how to collect the power of everyone in order to come to our interests. Now, about the occupation, how to stop the occupation, It just demands political will. It's not a civil engineering problem. It's not a scientific challenge. It's not an emotional roller coaster. If you want to do it and you have the will to do it, you can do it. And this is also goes for, I don't know if I support this solution or the two-state solution or not or what, but if you want to do it, you can do it. What do you need to know about the illegal settlements? I think maybe the news are important because the occupation, at least in the West Bank and Gaza, is since 1967. But what is going on now in the West Bank is maybe a little bit forgotten because of Gaza. But there is active settlers, militias that are supported by Israeli army that are actually acting and doing ethnic cleansing and driving people away outside of the West Bank or into other places within the West Bank and supplying more room for settlements. And it is done by terror. And this is something which is really a crime against humanity. I think this is something that should be known, that is happening right now as we speak and every day. And Saturday nights is also like a high point for this. So it will happen today, it will happen soon. So we need to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. We should have more time. It's my fault not be able to control the time limit. Thank you very much for attending this section, and thank you both, Roy and Hazem, for your honest and moving reflections. We may not find all the answers here today, but the very act of sitting together, listening, and engaging in dialogue is itself an act of courage and a sign of hope. Thank you both, and thank you all for participating in this event. Do we have more time now? No? Our time's up. Actually, our time's up. So maybe you can ask questions to Roy and Hazem later. Okay, thank you so much. I'm relieved. Okay, thank you.